Hey everybody, in this wizard build video for the game of Frostgrave, I'll be creating a witch that adds all sorts of additional figures to their warband while placing curses on their enemies. Hey everybody, I'm Alan, with Bricks and Blocks Gaming, tabletop gaming with bricks and blocks and helping to build your gameplay experience. In this video, I'll be showing you this witch's spell list, discuss their main spells and strategy, discuss how their other spells fit in, recommend some soldiers to hire for this wizard, and give my thoughts about using this build in a game. So let's get to the bricks and blocks of this witch build for Frostgrave. For their spells, from their primary school, I've selected Brew Potion, Control Animal, and Curse. From their aligned schools, I've selected Strength, Raise Zombie, and Summon Demon. And from their neutral schools, I've selected Illusionary Soldier and Heal. The overall theme for this wizard is to add lots of figures to their side of the table, but the main spell for this build is the in-school Curse, which casts on a very low 8. This spell gives the target -2 to all die rolls, including the roll to resist the curse, which only happens at the end of the turn, so there's no immediate chance to resist it, and the resistance roll isn't tied into their activation. So this should be cast on a figure that hasn't activated yet for the turn, to assure they have at least one of their activations penalized by this. However, on average, most figures will be plagued by this for multiple turns, due to the casting roll minimum rule bumping the result up to at least 14. And empowering a roll to the maximum of 18 is almost like empowering it to 20, since the -2 penalty is applied to the resistance roll. This spell can work well to mess with an opponent's spellcasting, or weaken their combat units. For the latter, the aligned Strength spell, casting on a 12, can be used to boost allied soldiers' fighting skills to really give them an advantage over cursed opponents. This spell should be cast after a few enemies have been cursed, or on any turn where there's no enemies in sight. It can be used on the first turn, however, to get things started with the build's theme, the aligned Summon Demon spell, casting on a 14, should usually be the turn 1 priority for the spellcasters. Successfully casting this will increase their overall numbers on the battlefield to add support bonuses to the other fighters, and is the only source of magic damage this witch build has, as all demons deal magic damage. Since this spell has a high casting number, the spellcasters should keep an apothecary nearby, ready to use their healing potion after any failed attempts are empowered to succeed. To aid with this, the out-of-game Brew Potion, with its casting number of 12, should be used to create additional potions of healing, so an allied apothecary can hopefully start each battle with the default potion plus an additional one, to aid both wizard and apprentice with early empowerments. I've talked before about how Brew Potion can be used to make and then sell potions of preservation for 200 gold crowns each. And you can do that with this spell, but that strategy does start to feel like you're cheating after a while. And regarding selling this overpriced potion, the author even commented on the Frostgrave Facebook group saying, "If I had to do it over again, I would probably put the 100 gold crown cap back in." This was a line from the Dark Alchemy supplement that initially released an expanded potion table for the first edition, which limited sales of all basic potions to no more than 100 gold crowns each. This witch has 2 other out-of-game spells that can be cast in-game as well. However, they're here really just to add a couple figures before the game if the spells happen to work. Raise Zombie, casting on a 12, can add an additional body for picking up treasure, so the real soldiers can focus on combat. And Illusionary Soldier, while objectively worse than Raise Zombie, and casting on a 16 being a neutral spell, can create a walking combat support bonus that can potentially tie up an opposing figure for a turn or 2. And making this Spectral Soldier a knight for added survivability, or a treasure hunter for speed, are good choices. Just remember they can't actually cause any damage or pick up treasure tokens. Next, the spellcasters know Heal, casting on a 12 being a neutral spell. This is always a good spell to have, just in case there's some extensive spell empowerment, or there's a soldier wounded on the battlefield. A spell that many wizards in Frostgrave know is Animal Companion, as it lets players add incredibly strong bears to their warband. Instead of taking that spell, this wizard has selected Control Animal. This casts on a 12 and allows the witch to take control of enemy bears and use them against their owners. And since this spell allows only one resistance roll right when the spell is cast, a controlled bear stays that way for the rest of the game. And against opponents that don't have animal companions, many of the creatures in the bestiary have the animal trait. So gaining control of an uncontrolled creature can simultaneously eliminate a threat and further the theme of adding to the warband's figure count. The hired soldiers for this witch should really be focused on offense over defense. Since the enemy figures will often be cursed, thus less likely to land their attacks, and the allied figures will often be strengthened, defense isn't as much of a concern. So after hiring an apprentice, this witch should start their journey in the Frozen City by hiring a barbarian and 2 infantrymen to serve as targets for the strength spell, and an apothecary for healing after empowering early summon demon spells. Then, since nearby treasure grabbing will mainly be done with the apothecary and hopefully a raised zombie, 4 thugs should be hired to fill the rest of the soldier slots. As the wizard finds more gold crowns, these grunts should be replaced with 1 more barbarian as a target for strength, a treasure hunter for quickly getting to the central treasure token, another infantryman, and a crossbowman. I like the crossbow more than a regular bow for this build because of the increased likelihood that the hit will land against a cursed target, thus being more likely to make use of the weapon's +2 damage. And for more about why a crossbowman instead of a marksman, check out this video where I compare the 2 soldiers. A couple thoughts for further adding to this team's soldier count is to purchase a kennel base resource to add a warhound as a 9th member of the warband. And if you have the Thaw of the Lich Lord supplement, adding a crowmaster, essentially a 2-in-1 soldier, instead of one of the infantrymen, could be fun. As far as how to level up this witch, Curse and Strength are really the go-to spells, and the main focus should be on lowering their casting numbers to make them super reliable. All the other spells they have are designed to only be cast once per game or are situational, and so might not need a lot of leveling. Just empowering them and healing up with the apothecary will usually be sufficient. And for their stats, health and fight are probably equally important to improve, as empowering will likely be necessary, but they will also find themselves within line of sight and combat range of their enemies as they cast a lot of curse spells. As far as my opinion about this build, there are stronger witch builds you can make, but I wanted to try out the curse spell to see what I could do with it, and I think that this overall strategy will work effectively. And since curse has such a low casting number, this build could work well for a one-off game as well as for a campaign. Let me know your thoughts about this witch build for Frostgrave and if you've had any experience with the curse spell. I'm Alan with Bricks and Blocks Gaming. Thanks for watching and play well.